Hello and welcome to History at Night. When you think of the Olympic Games, you likely imagine a global festival of sport. Thousands of athletes from every country competing for gold, silver and bronze medals. But the original Games, the ancient Olympics, were a very different affair. They were smaller, harsher, and in many ways far more profound. There were no gold medals, there were no national teams, and the athletes competed completely naked. Why would anyone endure years of brutal training, travel across dangerous lands, and compete in violent, often deadly events, all for a simple crown of olive leaves? The answer was something more valuable than gold: glory. In ancient Greece, to be an Olympic champion was to touch the divine, to win a piece of immortality, and to bring unimaginable honour to yourself, your family, and your city-state, all under the watchful eye of Zeus, king of the gods. So tonight you will become one of these athletes. We will leave the modern world behind and travel back over 2,000 years. You will experience the long and grueling transformation from a farm boy into a hardened competitor. You will make the long pilgrimage across Greece, survive the brutal, month-long trial at Elis, and swear your sacred oath to the gods. You will experience the roar of the crowd, the dust of the stadium, and the thrill of victory that could make you a legend forever. But before our journey begins, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It's a simple and wonderful way to support the channel, and it means a great deal to me. I'm also always curious to know where in the world and at what time you're joining me tonight, so I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. And now settle in, let the noise of the modern world fade away, and let us travel back to a time of olive groves, marble temples, and the pursuit of immortal glory. Your world is small, and it smells of dust and wild thyme. You are 14 years old, and the boundaries of your life are the silver-green olive groves that belong to your father, the rocky path that leads to the community well, and the sun-bleached stone walls of the handful of houses that make up your demos, one of the many rural villages that dot the rugged countryside of Attica. On a clear day, from the highest hill, you can just make out the distant gleam of marble from the Acropolis in the great city of Athens, a place that feels as distant as the moon. This word is the root of your identity. On a small scale, it is your village, this specific collection of families, fields, and traditions bound by history and blood. But in a greater sense, the demos refers to all citizens of your city-state, the collective people from whom power flows. For you, though, it is simply home, the only world you have ever known. Life here is governed by the sun. It wakes you in the morning, casting long shadows from the hills, and it drives you to the shade of the fig trees in the breathless heat of the afternoon. The only sounds are the incessant, high-pitched ringing of the cicadas and the distant bleating of your family's goats. Your body is not a temple, it is a tool. It is strong not from any formal training, but from the simple, relentless labour of your existence. You wake before dawn, your first task to lead the goats to their grazing patch. You spend hours under the sun, working the soil of the groves, your back and shoulders aching with a familiar, deep-set burn. In the evening, you haul heavy clay jars of water back to the house for your mother. Your hands are hard and calloused, your feet are tough from the unforgiving ground, and your skin is the colour of baked earth. You do this without thought or question. It is the life your father lived, and his father before him. The great stories of heroes and gods feel like they belong to another world entirely, tales told on winter nights that have no bearing on the hard, practical reality of your days. But today is different. The midday work is done, and a rare hour of respite is granted. You are with the other boys of the demos seeking shade near a dry creek bed. An argument, as it often does, turns into a challenge. Lycaon, whose father owns more goats than anyone else, and who is bigger than you, boasts of his speed. He points to the crest of the nearby hill, where a single gnarled olive tree stands against the piercing blue of the sky. The first one to touch the trunk is the best among us, he declares. It is a game, nothing more. But as you all leap to your feet, something inside you awakens. The others run with the frantic, clumsy energy of youth. You feel different. Your feet barely seem to strike the ground. The steep, rocky incline that usually winds you is not an obstacle, but a welcome challenge. You feel your lungs drawing in the hot air easily, powerfully. The shouts of the other boys fade behind you, replaced by the sound of the wind rushing past your ears. You are not just running, you are flying over the earth. You reach the ancient tree, a full 50 paces ahead of Lycaon, your hands slapping against its rough bark while he is still struggling up the slope. You are not even out of breath, only filled with a strange, exhilarating energy you have never felt before. As the other boys arrive, panting and cursing, you notice someone else has been watching. It is Diocles, an old man whose son died in a skirmish with a raiding party from a rival city years ago. He no longer works the fields, but spends his days sitting in the shade, observing the life of the demos. He is said to have travelled to Corinth and even Sparta in his youth, and he carries an authority that the other elders lack. He beckons you with a single, crooked finger. You approach him with caution. His eyes, usually clouded with memory, are sharp and clear. They are not looking at you, the boy, but at your body. He studies your legs, your shoulders, the depth of your chest. You do not run like a goat herder, he says, his voice a dry rasp. You run like a stag. How old are you? You tell him. He nods slowly, stroking his grey beard. There is a gift in you, boy. A gift from the gods. To let it wither in these dusty fields would be an insult to them. He speaks of things you have only heard in whispers. The games at Nemea, the festival at Isthmia, and the one that matters above all others. He says the word Olympia, and for the first time, it does not sound like a myth. It sounds like a destination. Later that evening, you watch as Diocles speaks with your father, a stern and practical man who measures life in harvests and rainfall. Look at you in a way he never has before. He sees past the son, the labourer, and for the first time, he sees the potential for something more, a chance at a legacy, at a glory that his fields could never provide. The conversation ends. Your father walks over to you, his face a mask of grim determination. He places a heavy hand on your shoulder. Tomorrow your brothers will tend the goats, he says. Your life as a farmer is over. Diocles says you must be tested. Your real work is about to begin. You look out at the familiar hills, now bathed in the purple light of dusk, and you realise they are no longer the border of your world. They are the first step on a new and terrifying path. The journey from your demos is a descent from the quiet hills into a roaring sea of humanity. As you pass through the great gates of Athens, the familiar world of ringing cicadas and bleating goats is swallowed by an overwhelming din, the rumble of cartwheels on stone, the ceaseless shouts of merchants in the agora, the cacophony of a city that never rests. The air is thick with the unfamiliar smells of charcoal smoke, exotic spices, and the sweat of the crowd pressing in from all sides. Your father guides you through the dizzying maze of streets, his hand a firm grip on your shoulder, leading you to a walled compound on the city's edge, a famous gymnasium. This, he tells you, is your new world. The moment you step through the gates, your senses are overwhelmed. This is not a building. It is a world unto itself. Before you lies the palestra, a vast square courtyard of packed earth, surrounded by a covered colonnade where robed men, older and wealthier than any you have ever seen, stand talking and gesturing. Beyond it, you see long, open-air running tracks stretching into the distance. The men here train in the traditional Greek way, their physiques on full display. They are bigger than you, their muscles more defined, their skin a latticework of old scars and fresh scrapes. They move with a purpose and confidence that makes you feel small and soft, a boy in a land of giants. The air itself is different here. It is thick and heavy, carrying a scent you have never experienced, a pungent, almost cloying mixture that will soon become the smell of your own life. It is the smell of olive oil, gallons of it, warming in the sun. It is the smell of fine sand and dry dust, kicked up by running feet and grappling bodies. And under it all is the sharp metallic tang of male sweat, the odour of pure, unending exertion. The sounds are just as alien, the rhythmic thud of bodies being thrown in the wrestling pit, the sharp, guttural grunts of men lifting stone weights, the high-pitched whir of a bronze discus slicing through the air, and underpinning it all, the constant sharp commands of the trainers. You are led to one of these men, your new master. He does not greet you or ask your name. He simply looks you over, his eyes critical, missing nothing. His first command is simple. Your training starts now. Remove your tunic. You do as you are told, folding the simple garment that connects you to your old life. Here you are not a farmer's son, you are an athlete, and your body is now an instrument to be honed. Another youth, an assistant, hands you a small clay flask of olive oil. You watch the others and mimic their actions, pouring the cool, viscous liquid into your palm and rubbing it across your body. Next, you are guided to a bin of fine sand and instructed to coat your oiled body in a light layer of dust. The trainer explains that this helps with grip and protects the skin. Finally, you are put through a series of grueling exercises, running, jumping, lifting, not as training, but as a raw assessment of your capabilities. Your muscles, accustomed to the rhythms of farm labour, scream in protest at these new, explosive demands. When it is over, you are panting, your body trembling with an exhaustion deeper than any you have ever known. But you are not done. You are handed a slengis, a curved bronze instrument you have never seen before. You are shown how to use it, to brace your skin and scrape away the thick paste of oil, sand, sweat and dirt. The process is rough, leaving your skin red and raw. As you stand there, scraped clean but still reeking of the gymnasium's unique perfume, you look at your own reflection in a polished bronze shield hanging on the wall. The boy who left the demos this morning is gone. In his place is a raw, aching apprentice in the house of sweat and oil. This strange, brutal place has claimed you. Your new life quickly settles into a rhythm of monotonous, grinding toil. The world of your childhood, the goats, the fields, the scent of your mother's baking bread, fades into a distant memory. Your entire existence now revolves around one principle, a word your trainer drills into you until it echoes in your sleep. Ponos. He explains that it means more than just pain or work. It is purposeful, sacred suffering. It is the noble toil through which a boy is hammered into a man and a man is elevated into a hero. Your body, he tells you, his voice devoid of sympathy, is a block of unworked marble. I am the sculptor, and my tools are exhaustion and pain. Through Ponos, we will chip away the soft, useless parts of you and reveal the champion within. Your days are no longer measured by the sun, but by the tetras, a 4-day cycle that governs your exertion. The first day is one of preparation and moderate intensity, short sprints, light exercises. The second day is the day of high intensity, a brutal, all-out assault on your physical limits that leaves you trembling on the verge of collapse. The third day is for recovery, but it is not rest. It involves slow, deliberate movements and skill refinement. The fourth day is one of medium intensity, a bridge back to the beginning of the cycle. This rhythm is relentless. There are no holidays, no days of true rest. There is only the cycle and the work. The work itself is a strange combination of raw labour and precise skill. You spend hours lifting and throwing heavy, uncut stones to build raw power in your back and shoulders. You run sprints in the soft, deep sand of the riverbed, a torturous exercise that builds explosive strength in your legs. You are paired with older, stronger athletes for wrestling practice, and you spend most of the time being thrown mercilessly into the packed earth of the palestra, each impact a lesson in leverage and humility. Your trainer forces you to practice the intricate spin of the discus throw until your muscles commit the movement to memory, long after your mind has grown numb with repetition. Every session ends the same way, with your body screaming for rest and your trainer demanding one more attempt. When it comes to your food, you expected the traditional path. For generations, champions were built on a foundation of simplicity and self-control. You imagined your meals would be what all of Greece considered wholesome. Coarse barley cakes known as marza, baskets of fresh goat cheese, tyros, handfuls of sweet-dried figs, and thick bread dipped in watered-down wine. This was the diet of sophrosine, of balance and moderation. It was food designed to build a lean, hardy body, not a heavy one, and athletes took pride in their ascetic lifestyle. But Phaedros, your trainer, belongs to a new, more radical school. He scoffs at this tradition. Do you want to be a philosopher or do you want to be a victor? He asks, his voice laced with contempt. That is the food of thinkers. We are not thinking, we are building a weapon. And so, your diet is transformed into something new and strange. The balanced, grain-based meals of Greece are forbidden. Instead, you are fed massive quantities of meat, often goat or pork, along with only the driest bread and a few figs. Your trainer believes in the controversial new meat diet, arguing that to build the flesh of a bull, you must eat like a lion. The food is heavy and bland. There is no joy in eating. It is merely fuel for the next session of ponos. You choke down the dry meat, your stomach churning, knowing that you are eating not for pleasure, but for sheer mass and power. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, your body begins to respond. The lean, wiry strength of the farm boy is being replaced by something new. Your shoulders broaden, your chest deepens, and dense, powerful muscle builds on your thighs and back. When you hoist the training stones now, they feel lighter. When you wrestle, you are not thrown as easily. The scars on your skin from scrapes and falls are joined by the hard, knotted tissue of developing muscle. The change is not just physical. Your mind is hardening too. You learn to silence the part of you that screams to stop. You learn to see pain not as an enemy, but as an indicator of progress. One evening, after the training is done, you catch your reflection in the bronze shield that hangs on the wall of the gymnasium. Your body is bruised and covered in a sheen of oil and grime. Every muscle fibre aches with a deep, resonant thrum. But through the exhaustion, you see it for the first time. The outline is there, the broad shoulders, the powerful core, the thick neck. It is the faint, emerging shape of the man you are supposed to become. The trainer's words echo in your mind. You understand now. To shape a body of stone, you must first forge a will of iron. The pain has a purpose. It is the sculptor's chisel. The man who orchestrates your daily sufferings, named Phaedros. He is a former wrestler, a fact written across his body in a roadmap of scars, a thickened brow, and a nose that has been broken more than once. He moves with the quiet, deliberate grace of a predator, and his eyes, small and dark, seem to miss nothing. Phaedros is not just your trainer, he is the absolute master of your existence. He dictates what you eat, how you sleep, and when you are allowed even a moment's rest. His word is law within the walls of the gymnasium, and his authority is unquestionable. You are no longer your father's son. You are Phaedros's creation, his project, his living sculpture. His primary tool of instruction is a long, forked stick, cut from a slender olive branch. It is almost always in his hand. This stick is not for pointing. It is for correction. One afternoon, while you are practicing your discus form, your release is a fraction of a second too late. Before the bronze disc has even clattered to the ground, the switch lands with a sharp, stinging crack across your shoulders. The pain is electric, immediate. There is no shouting, no lecture. Just the pain. And his low, cold voice, your arm followed your hip follows your heel. Again. You learn quickly that perfection is the only acceptable standard. Anything less is met with the swift, impartial judgment of the stick. You come to understand that his methods, while brutal, are not born of malice. Phaedros is preparing you for the reality of the agon. He is hardening you. The sting of his switch is a pale shadow of the brutal impact of a boxer's fist. The ache in your muscles is a dull whisper compared to the agony of a joint being twisted in a wrestler's grip. He is teaching your mind to separate itself from the body's complaints. He is forging a will that will not break under pressure, a focus that will not shatter in the chaos of competition. Every strike is a lesson. Every moment of pain he inflicts is a deliberate vaccination against the greater pain of defeat. But he is not just a tormentor. There are moments, rare and fleeting, when the tyrant recedes and the master teacher emerges. During a wrestling session, you are consistently being thrown by a stronger, heavier opponent. Phaedros halts the match. He steps onto the dirt, and with a surprising gentleness he adjusts your stance. You fight his strength, he murmurs, his voice just for you. A foolish errand. Use his weight instead. See how he leans? His strength is his weakness. He then demonstrates the move with an economy of motion that is breathtaking, using his opponent's own momentum to send him sprawling. In that moment, you see the artist behind the brute, the deep, brilliant well of knowledge that he possesses. You learn that his approval is a currency far more valuable than coin. He never offers praise. A perfectly executed exercise is met only with his silence, and you come to cherish that silence, as it means you have met his expectations. The greatest reward you can ever receive is a short, almost imperceptible nod. That small gesture from Phaedros feels more significant than any cheering crowd. It is a sign that the block of marble is beginning to take the shape he desires. It is a sign that perhaps you are worthy of the ponos he inflicts upon you. One day, at the end of a long run, you collapse, your lungs on fire, convinced you cannot take another step. Phaedros doesn't strike you. He simply crouches beside you, his shadow falling over you. Rest then, he says quietly. And as you rest, think of the journey home. Imagine telling your father that the pain was too much. Imagine the silence of your demos when they see you have returned with nothing. That is a pain that will last longer than this. He stands and walks away, leaving you with a choice. You get up and finish the run. You come to realize that the cruel hand that guides you is the only one capable of leading you to Olympia. You may fear him. You may even hate him in your moments of deepest agony. But you trust him. You trust his knowledge, his judgment, and his purpose. He is the gatekeeper of your dream, and you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that to pass through that gate, you must first endure his world. And so, you endure. You surrender yourself completely to the rhythm of his commands, to the endless cycle of ponos. Day bleeds into week, week into month. The seasons turn outside the walls of the gymnasium, but inside your world there is only the unchanging routine of toil and exhaustion. The boy of 14 who first walked through the gates vanishes, hammered away by the relentless work. In his place, a man is forged. You are 18 now, and the man you have become would be unrecognizable to the boy who left the demos. The soft lines of youth are gone, hammered away, and replaced by the dense, powerful muscle of a pentathlete. Your shoulders are broad, your hands are calloused into thick plates of leather, and your mind, once filled with the simple concerns of the harvest, is now a focused instrument, honed by the relentless discipline of your master, Phaedros. You are no longer new. You are no longer a boy. You are a weapon, waiting to be unleashed. One morning, the familiar rhythm of the gymnasium is broken. Two men arrive, their clothes marked by the dust of a long journey. They are the Spondophoroi, the truce bearers from Elis. They carry bronze staffs as symbols of their sacred authority, and a hush falls over the entire complex as they enter. All activity ceases. Wrestlers disentangle, runners halt, and even the sharp-tongued trainers fall silent. The presence of these men commands a deep, instinctual reverence. They move to the centre of the palaestra, and one of the heralds raises his staff. His voice rings out with ancient formality, a proclamation he will deliver in every major city in the Hellenic world. He declares the will of the gods. The great games in honour of Olympian Zeus will be held in 2 months' time. And from this moment, until the last traveller has safely returned to his home, the Ekaheria, the Sacred Truce, is in effect. The words hang in the air, transforming everything. The abstract goal you have suffered for has suddenly become a concrete reality, a date circled on the calendar of your life. For you, the Ekaheria is more than just a political decree. It is a divine shield. It means that the long, dangerous road to the Peloponnese, a journey that would normally be fraught with risk from bandits or skirmishes between feuding city-states, is now under the protection of Zeus himself. To attack you or any other pilgrim on the way to the games would be a sacrilege of the highest order, inviting not just the wrath of men, but the vengeance of the gods. After the heralds depart, Phaedros pulls you aside, away from the other athletes he trains. His focus is now entirely on you. In his eyes, you are the only one who matters for this Olympic cycle. The truce has been called, he says, his voice low and hard, meant only for your ears. The sacred peace has begun. It means we have a little more time here to hone every skill until it is second nature. Then we begin the long road to Elis and the trial before the judges. Consider this your final warning. From this moment until you stand in the stadium, there is no wasted breath, no wasted motion. Everything must be for victory. Do you understand? You nod, the weight of his words settling upon you. There is no more room for error, no more time for building. The abstract goal has become a ticking clock. That night's sleep does not come easily. Your mind is no longer on the toil of the past, but on the dust of the road you know you will meet soon. The day of your departure arrives without ceremony. Your father meets you at the gates of the gymnasium. He does not embrace you. He simply hands you a small leather purse with enough coins for cheap lodging and food. Bring honour to this family, he says, his voice a low command. It is both a blessing and a burden. Phaedros shoulders his own pack, gives a curt nod, and turns to the west. Your travelling party is small and self-reliant. You, Phaedros, and a quiet, wiry young attendant named Lycas. You travel on foot. It is the only real way for an athlete on a pilgrimage. A horse is a luxury for a general, and a liability on the punishing mountain roads, a beast for battle, not a companion for a sacred journey. Your own 2 feet are all the transport a competitor needs. The journey is colossal, a trek of nearly 200 miles. At a disciplined pace, it will take the better part of 2 weeks, a true test of a different kind of endurance. The first 3 days are a familiar burn as you cross the plains of your homeland, Attica. Then you reach the great isthmus of Corinth, the narrow bridge of land connecting your world to the great peninsula of the Peloponnese. Here, the road becomes more crowded as you join travellers from nearby Megara and Thebes, the first hint of the great assembly to come. After crossing the isthmus, your path turns southwest, and for several more days, you push through the rugged, hilly territory of Achaia. It is here, nearly a week into your journey, that the true river of humanity begins to form. Roads from the north carrying pilgrims from Delphi and Thessaly merge with your own. The path becomes a slow-moving, crowded artery of life, all of it pouring west towards the same sacred destination. The air, once filled with the sounds of nature, now hums with a dozen different dialects, the scent of cooking fires, and a palpable, shared sense of purpose. Immersed in this crowd, you learn to watch the other athletes. It is a silent, moving competition before the games even begin. A group of broad-shouldered men from Macedon, their skins paler than yours, eye you up as they pass. Phaedros points out a lean, tough runner from Argos, known for his stamina. Watch how he walks, Phaedros murmurs. He conserves every motion. He is disciplined. You study them, and they study you. There is no open hostility. The truce forbids it. But there is a constant, simmering rivalry. The nights are a lottery. Sometimes you find a space on the floor of a crowded, flea-ridden traveller's inn. More often, you sleep under the stars, surrounded by the sounds of the vast, temporary community. This journey strips away all comfort, reinforcing the lessons of austerity and hardship Phaedros has drilled into you. The landscape itself seems to grow more mythic with each passing day. Every mountain pass and river valley has a story, a connection to Heracles or some other hero of old. The journey has transformed from a simple trip into a true pilgrimage. You are no longer just an athlete. You are a pilgrim, approaching a sacred place. One afternoon, Phaedros stops and points to the horizon. In the distance, you can see the faint outline of city walls under the shimmering heat. Elis, he says, his voice flat. A wave of both dread and relief washes over you. You are tired, dirty, and your feet are raw. But you have made it. The long road is over. Now the true test, the final, brutal month of proving your worth, is about to begin. You pass through the gates of Elis, and the festive chaos of the road immediately vanishes, replaced by an atmosphere of pure, unadulterated tension. This is not a city of merchants and spectators. For this 1 month, it is a city of athletes. The air itself feels different, charged with the nervous energy of hundreds of competitors who have staked their entire lives on this moment. You and your small party are directed towards the city's main gymnasium, a sprawling complex even larger than the one you left behind. Here you are no longer an individual. You are one of many hopefuls, a single drop in an ocean of ambition. Before you even touch a discus, you are summoned before the judges, the Hellenodikai. They are men of high birth from the noble families of Elis, and they carry an aura of almost divine authority. Dressed in magnificent purple robes, they sit impassively as you are brought before them. They do not smile. Their faces are stern, practiced masks of judgment. One of them records your name, your father's name, and your home city in a register. Another inspects your body. not with the calculating eye of a trainer, but with the cool dispassion of a priest examining a sacrificial animal to ensure it is without blemish. You feel the weight of their gaze, knowing these men hold your dream in the palm of their hands. Their word is absolute law. Life becomes a brutally simple and unwavering routine, and for you the first change is a profound shock. For 4 years, under Phaedros's command, you have eaten meat like a lion to build your strength. Here, that is forbidden. The judges enforce the old ascetic diet on all competitors to ensure fairness and piety. You all eat the same simple meals: coarse barley cakes, figs, and cheese. This is a measure of humility, stripping away every athlete's special preparations to return them to a state of shared discipline before the gods. You feel a knot of fear in your stomach. Will your power fade on this simple fare? But Phaedros dismisses your concern with a look. The foundation is built, he tells you later in a quiet whisper. This is now a test of your spirit's endurance, not just your body's. You are now surrounded by the very best from the entire Hellenic world. In the wrestling pit, you see Spartans whose bodies seem to be hewn from rock. On the running track, you see men from Sicily who are so fast they appear to float over the ground. The confidence you have carefully built is shaken. Here, you are merely one of 100 others who are just as strong and just as hungry as you are. One afternoon, you witness a javelin thrower, a man you recognise from the road, get dismissed with a quiet gesture from a judge after a poor performance. His dream dies in an instant. The fear this instills in you is cold and sharp. And so you push on, day after identical day. The sun rises, you train until your muscles tear, you eat your simple meal, you fall into a dead sleep, and you wake to do it all again. The month becomes a blur of pain, dust, and focus. You no longer think of your home or your past. There is only the next exercise, the next command, the next rival. Men you trained beside 1 week are gone the next, their dreams extinguished. The crowd of hopefuls thins with each setting sun, and you survive, one day at a time, holding on to your ambition with a desperate, silent grip. Phaedros is your shadow, coaching you with his eyes and with urgent, quiet counsel in the evenings. And then, after a lifetime of toil, condensed into 30 days, the final day of the month arrives. All the remaining athletes are gathered in the main courtyard. A profound silence falls as one of the chief judges steps forward, holding a papyrus scroll. He begins to read the names of those who have been deemed worthy to proceed to Olympia. Each name called is met with a quiet explosion of relief from one man and a wave of despair from a dozen others. The list feels impossibly long, then terrifyingly short. You hold your breath, your heart hammering against your ribs. And then you hear it. Your name. The sound is so overwhelming that the world seems to go silent for a moment. You have survived. You look at Phaedros, who gives you a single, sharp nod. It is the highest praise he has ever offered. The proving is over. You are now truly an Olympian. The night after the selection is unlike any you have ever known. The oppressive tension that has suffocated the city of Elis for a month finally breaks. A quiet, exhausted camaraderie settles over you and the other men who have been deemed worthy. You are no longer rivals, not for tonight. You are survivors. You share a flask of watered-down wine with a wrestler from Thebes, a man you considered your mortal enemy just yesterday. You exchange a silent, respectful nod with the swift runner from Sicily. You have all passed through the same fire, and a new unspoken bond has been forged between you, the brotherhood of the chosen. The procession begins at dawn. It is a slow, solemn, and magnificent affair. At the head of the column march the Hellanodikai, their purple robes a stark statement of their sacred authority. Behind them, you and the other athletes walk together, a great procession of the finest physiques in the Hellenic world, moving not with the urgency of a race, but with the measured tread of a religious pilgrimage. Phaedros walks near you, his usual harshness replaced by a grim, focused silence. He is no longer your master tormentor. He is your guide on this final, holy leg of the journey. The road from Elis to Olympia is known as the Sacred Way, and you feel its significance with every step. On the first day, the march stops at a sacred spring that bubbles up from the earth. Here a purification ritual is held. One by one, you and the other athletes wash your hands and faces in the cool, clear water, a symbolic act of cleansing yourselves of the profane world of training before you present yourselves to the gods. The simple act focuses your mind, stripping away lingering fear and replacing it with a profound sense of purpose. The day concludes at a designated stopping point along the sacred way, and camp is made as the sun sets. There is no revelry, only the quiet sounds of hundreds of men preparing for the final leg of their journey. The air is filled with a unique mixture of exhaustion and electric anticipation. Phaedros sits with you by a small fire, not speaking of technique, but of mindset. Tomorrow you will see the grove, he says. Do not let your awe make you forget why you are there. You are not a spectator. You are an offering. You sleep that night on the hard ground, closer to your goal than ever before, the dreams of glory wrestling with the fear of the gods. The procession resumes with the first light of the second day. The final miles feel different. The anticipation from the night before has sharpened into a keen edge. The path begins to wind through gentle hills, shaded by ancient silver-leafed olive trees. You can feel a change in the air itself, a stillness, a sense of approaching something of immense power and antiquity. Then you come around a final bend in the road, and the valley opens up before you. You stop, and your breath catches in your throat. It is Olympia. It is not a city of men, but a sanctuary of the gods. Dominating everything is the Temple of Zeus, a structure so massive and perfectly proportioned that it seems impossible it was built by human hands. You can see the smaller, more ancient temple of Hera nearby, and the row of stone treasuries built by various city-states. And in the centre of it all, you see not a building, but a great dark mound, the altar of Zeus, built over centuries from the compacted ash of countless sacrifices. The entire grove seems to hum with a silent, invisible power. All the stories, all the pain, the years of Ponos, it all collapses into this one overwhelming moment. It is real. Phaedros places a heavy hand on your shoulder. This, he says, his voice thick with a reverence you have never heard from him before, is what you have bled for. You take your first steps into the sacred heart of Olympia, the Altes. The ground beneath your feet feels different, charged with history and divinity. The sounds of the world seem to fade away, replaced by a profound, ringing silence. You have left the world of men behind. You have entered the domain of the gods. And here, upon their holy ground, your ultimate fate will be decided. The awe you felt upon completing the procession and entering Olympia settles into a quiet, nervous reverence. There is little time for wonder. You and the other athletes are quickly ushered into designated quarters. The sheer scale of the temples and the countless statues of past victors flashing past your eyes. They are the legends who came before you, their glory frozen in time, and you feel the immense weight of their legacy. You are no longer just an athlete on a journey. You are a link in an ancient sacred chain, and the duties of that chain begin immediately. Before the sun can set on your day of arrival, a herald summons you and the other qualified Olympians. You are not directed to the stadium or the training grounds, but to the Bouleuterion, the council house of Olympia. This is not a place of celebration. It is an imposing, solemn building where the official business of the games is conducted. Inside, the air is cool and heavy with the scent of old incense and something more primal. Your eyes are immediately drawn to the statue that dominates the room. It is Zeus, but not the majestic seated king you have seen in other temples. This is Zeus Horkios, Zeus, the keeper of oaths. He is a terrifying figure cast in bronze, standing with a thunderbolt in each outstretched hand, his expression a mask of grim, divine fury. The statue was crafted for one purpose: to strike terror into the hearts of any man who would consider breaking his vow. At the foot of the statue, your stomach tightens at what you see next. Priests have just sacrificed a wild boar, and its freshly cut pieces lie on the ground. The sharp, metallic smell of blood cuts through the incense. This is not just a sacrifice, it is a warning. Just as this animal has been dismembered, so too will the gods destroy any man who swears a false oath on this holy ground. You are gathered with the other competitors. The mood is tense and deathly quiet. You see Phaedros standing nearby, his face a mask of stone. And then through the crowd you see another familiar face. Your father. He has made the long journey himself, his face etched with the worry and hope of a man whose family's honour is now on the line. He gives you a single, grim nod. The presence of both your father and your trainer underscores the weight of this moment. This is where the rules of the gods are formally laid upon the rules of men. A herald calls you forward in a group. You approach the statue, your heart pounding a heavy rhythm against your ribs. You are instructed to place your hands upon the bloody, still warm pieces of the sacrificial boar. The touch is jarring, a visceral connection to the brutal consequence of failure. With your hands upon the sacrifice, you must repeat the words of the sacred oath, spoken aloud by a priest. You swear to Zeus that you have trained faithfully for the 10 months preceding the games. You swear that you will compete with honour and will not resort to bribery, trickery, or any foul play to secure victory. The words feel heavy in your mouth, each one a binding chain. You are entering a sacred contract, with the king of the gods himself as the witness and enforcer. When you are done, you step back, but the ceremony is not over. Your father and Phaedros must then step forward, place their hands on the sacrifice, and swear their own oath, vouching for your purity as a competitor. The responsibility is shared. If you cheat, you bring disgrace and divine retribution not only upon yourself but upon your family and your master. Finally, you walk out of the dark, intimidating Bouleuterion, and back into the bright sunlight. The world looks the same, but you feel profoundly changed. A sacred, terrifying bond has been tied around your soul. The games are no longer simply a contest of muscle and skill. They are now a test of your piety and your honour, held in the direct sight of the gods. The path to victory is clear, but the penalty for cheating is no longer just disqualification. It is utter and divine destruction. The morning after the oath dawns with a new energy. The sacred tension of the formal opening has given way to a buzzing, chaotic excitement. Today your own contests have not yet begun. You and your fellow athletes are, for a few hours, spectators. A great river of people is flowing away from the sacred grove, and you are swept along with them, drawn by a sound that starts as a low hum and grows into a deafening roar. The sound pulls you toward a vast, open plain outside the Altes, the Hippodrome. You have never seen a spectacle of this scale. This is not a formal stadium of stone, but a massive, oblong track of packed earth, flanked by natural hillsides that are now teeming with tens of thousands of people. The air is thick with dust and the smell of horses, a churning sea of shouting, gesturing, and betting spectators. This is where the first and most expensive of the contests are held. This is the domain of the rich. Phaedros guides you to a spot on the embankment, and you watch as the teams prepare for the Tethropon, the 4-horse chariot race. The chariots are impossibly light, little more than small wooden platforms on 2 wheels, painted with the emblems of their owners. The horses are magnificent, powerful creatures from the finest breeding lines in Greece, their muscles twitching with nervous energy, their harnesses gleaming with bronze. Phaedros points to one team. Owned by a nobleman from Syracuse, he says, his voice laced with a cynical respect. And that one, by an Athenian general. They will not risk their own lives, of course. They hire drivers. But if the chariot wins, the olive wreath and the glory belong to the owner. You see the drivers, lean, tough men whose faces are grim masks of focus. Their fate is to risk death for another man's honour. You watch, fascinated, as the teams are loaded into the ingenious starting gate, the hypophysis. It is a massive ship-prow-shaped structure, with stalls for each chariot. As the trumpet sounds, a complex system of ropes is lowered in sequence, first for the chariots in the back, then the ones in front, releasing them onto the track in a perfectly fair start. The moment the last gate drops, the crowd erupts in a single, deafening roar. The race is an explosion of organised chaos. The thunder of 40 hooves shakes the very ground you stand on. The light chariots bounce and skid on the uneven track, throwing up a blinding cloud of dust. The real test comes at the far end of the track, at the tight 180-degree turn around the post. It is here that skill, bravery and luck collide. On the second lap, you see it happen. A driver cuts the turn too sharply. His chariot's wheel clips the post and the entire vehicle disintegrates in a shower of splintered wood. The driver is thrown, and another chariot, unable to swerve in time, ploughs into his fallen horses. The sound of cracking wood and the high-pitched screams of animals cuts through the crowd's roar. It is a moment of breathtaking, terrifying violence. Phaedros tells you of the legends of the track, of a spot on the course known as the Taraxippus, the horse frightener, an invisible presence that is said to panic the animals and cause the most spectacular crashes. You watch the drivers wrestle with their powerful teams, their bodies braced, their knuckles white as they fight to control 4 galloping horses, hell-bent on victory. As the race finishes, a victor pulls ahead, crossing the line to a wave of ecstatic shouts. The crowd pours onto the field, surrounding the wealthy owner, who is already celebrating his triumph. The driver, bruised, sweat-soaked, and covered in a thick layer of grime, is barely noticed as he calms his heaving horses. You leave the Hippodrome with the roar of the crowd still ringing in your ears. It was a magnificent, terrifying spectacle of wealth and danger. But it was not your world. Your glory cannot be bought, and your victory cannot be won by another. The time for watching is over. Soon you will step into your own arena, the stadium, where the only thing that matters is the strength and skill of your own 2 hands and your own 2 feet. You leave the Hippodrome behind and walk with a quiet, focused dread toward the great stadium. The chaotic roar of the horse races is replaced by the focused hum of a different kind of crowd. As you pass through the arched tunnel that leads onto the field, the crypt, you emerge from coolness and shadow into a colossal space, a long rectangle of packed earth flanked by grassy embankments, packed with thousands of spectators. This is it, the place you have dreamed of and feared for years. The air is hot, and the scale of the crowd, a living wall of humanity, is immense. There is nowhere to hide. You take your place with the other pentathletes. There are 20 of you, the best all-around competitors from across the Hellenic world. You recognise the massive Theban you saw on the road, a wrestler whose sheer bulk seems to radiate power. You see the lean, tough runner from Argos, and the supremely confident champion from Corinth. Phaedros gives you one last look, his eyes boring into you. "Remember your training," is all he says. The crowd is not real. The other men are not real. There is only the mark. Do not think. React. A judge signals the start of the first discipline, the discus throw. A competitor from Corinth, a man with a chest like a wine barrel, steps up first. He spins with immense power, his body a blur of controlled violence, and the heavy bronze discus flies through the air with a soft whir, landing with a heavy thud far down the field. The crowd murmurs its approval. The mark is set. One by one, your rivals take their turns, each throw a statement of intent. The Theban uses brute force, his throw landing just short of the Corinthians. The runner from Argos throws with more grace than power, his mark respectable but not threatening. Then, it is your turn. You walk to the starting line, the weight of the bronze discus cool and heavy in your hand. You can feel the thousands of eyes on you, a physical weight on your skin. You force them out. You remember the endless afternoons with Phaedros, the sting of his switch after a clumsy release, the muscle memory beaten into you. You take a breath, begin your spin, and let the muscle memory take over. Your body knows what to do. You release. The discus soars a spinning bronze sun and lands just past the Corinthians' mark. A wave of quiet relief washes over you. You are in the lead. For now. But there is no time for satisfaction. The judges move you immediately to the second event, the long jump, the halma. It is the most technical of the field events, a true test of rhythm and coordination. You are each handed 2 halteres, crescent-shaped stone weights, each as heavy as a small melon. A flute player begins a slow rhythmic tune, a melody designed to guide the timing of your approach. The Corinthian seeking to reclaim his lead goes first. He swings the weights powerfully, but his timing is off. He stumbles on his landing, and the jump is only average. The crowd groans its disappointment. You watch as the Theban takes his turn. He uses the heavy stones to launch his massive frame forward, landing with a powerful thud that shakes the ground. The mark is impressive. The pressure is back on you. You step to the line, the stones feeling heavy in your hands. The flute music seems distant. All you can hear is the pounding of your own heart. You begin to swing the weights, forward and back, building momentum. You remember Phaedros' voice, a constant echo in your mind. Let the stones pull you. Do not fight them. At the perfect moment, you launch yourself forward, thrusting the stones out in front of you as you jump. then pulling them back violently in midair to propel your body forward. You land hard in the sandpit, stumbling but staying on your feet. You wait, holding your breath, as a judge inspects the mark. He straightens up and looks at the crowd. Your jump is longer than the Thebans. You are still in the lead. As you walk back to the competitors' area, you see two men from the group being quietly dismissed by the judges. Their performance in the first two events was not good enough. They will not continue. The field of contenders is shrinking. You have survived, but the Javelin, your weakest event, is next. There is no time to savour your lead. The judges move the remaining group of athletes, a dozen of you are left now, to the far end of the stadium for the third event. The javelin throw, the Acon. A cold knot forms in your stomach. This is the discipline you fear. Your body is built for the power of the discus and the explosive coordination of the jump. The javelin is different. It is a creature of pure technique, a test of fluid grace that has always felt awkward in your powerful frame. Phaedros's voice echoes in your memory from 1,000 frustrating practice sessions. You cannot force it, you must guide it. Let it fly. You are each handed a slender javelin of elderwood, about as tall as you are, with a small bronze tip. The crucial element is the ankyle, a thin leather thong wrapped around the centre of the shaft. You watch the others. The massive Theban, your main rival, throws with clumsy brute force. His javelin wobbles in the air and lands with a disappointing thud. He is a wrestler, and it shows. This gives you hope. But then the champion from Corinth steps forward. His movements are like a dancer's. He takes a short, rhythmic run-up, his fingers expertly looped in the ankyle. As he throws, the thong unwinds, spinning the javelin with a sharp hiss. It flies with perfect, stable grace, soaring through the hot air and piercing the earth an incredible distance away. The crowd roars. The mark is monumental. The pressure on you is now immense. You don't need to beat the Corinthians' throw, no one will. But you must produce a mark good enough to keep you in the top tier. You step to the line, your palms sweating. You can feel the familiar awkwardness as you grip the shaft and loop the leather thong around your fingers. You close your eyes, shutting out the crowd, the Theban, the Corinthian. You picture Phaedros. You remember his endless corrections. You begin your run, trying to feel the rhythm, not force it. You throw. The javelin leaves your hand cleanly, spinning as it should. It is not the most beautiful throw. It is not the longest. But it flies true and lands with a solid, respectable mark. You have not failed. You have survived. As the judges review the marks, more men are dismissed, their shoulders slumped in defeat. The field has now been cut to just 5 men. The final qualifying event before the wrestling finale is the Stadion, a single furious sprint down the length of the stadium. You walk to the balbis, the stone starting line, and place your bare feet into the parallel grooves cut for the runners. Your muscles are heavy, screaming with the fatigue of the 3 field events. Beside you stands the runner from Argos, the lean, tough specialist. On your other side, the massive Theban settles into a clumsy starting position, his body built for grappling, not for speed. This is a test of what you have left. A judge raises his arm, then brings it down with a sharp cry. You explode from the line. The earth flies beneath your feet. The roar of the crowd becomes a single, sustained wall of sound. You are not thinking of form, only of the finish line, a simple line drawn in the dirt that now seems like the only thing in the world. The runner from Argos is a blur, pulling ahead to win the race as everyone expected. But you are right behind him, your lungs on fire, driving your exhausted body forward with pure will. You cross the line second, the Corinthian is third. The Theban lumbers across last, his face a mask of grim effort. You stand bent over, hands on your knees, gasping for air, the taste of blood and dust in your mouth. An agonizing silence falls over the stadium as the judges confer, their heads close together. They are calculating the results of all 4 events, deciding the 2 finalists. After what feels like an eternity, a herald steps forward. The crowd falls silent. The pentathlon, he bellows, his voice echoing across the field, will be decided by a final contest of wrestling between the 2 highest-scoring athletes. He turns to the judges who give him a name. From Thebes, the son of Damaster, The massive wrestler roars and beats his chest. He has made it to the final. The herald waits for the crowd to quiet. He looks at his tablet again. A long, terrible pause. He looks directly at you. And from Athens, the son of Ariston. The world seems to stop. You have done it. You have made it to the final. All that stands between you and the olive wreath is the mountain of muscle and bone from Thebes. The roar of the crowd as your name is called is a physical force, a wave of sound that washes over you and seems to shake the very ground. The other pentathletes, the men you have struggled beside and against all afternoon, fade away, their dreams extinguished. They retreat to the sidelines, their faces a mixture of disappointment and respect. The entire stadium, the entire world, seems to shrink until it contains only two figures, you and the mountain of muscle from Thebes. You walk to the centre of the stadium, to the scammer, the shallow pit of sand where the match will be held. The Theban is already there, beating his chest, a confident smirk on his face. He is a pure wrestler, and this is his domain. You are an all-arounder, your body exhausted from 4 previous events. Phaedros rushes to your side for one final, urgent instruction, his voice a low hiss in your ear. Do not meet his charge. His strength is a rock, and you will break against it. Be water. Evade him. Use his own weight against him. Remember your training. A judge gives the signal. The match begins. You circle each other, your bare feet sinking into the warm, soft sand. The contrast between you is stark. He is a bull, thick-necked and broad, moving with a ponderous, inevitable force. You are leaner, quicker, your body a map of taut, efficient muscle. He charges. You heed Phaedros's words, sidestepping his initial lunge. He grunts in frustration. You lock up and you feel his power for the first time. It is immense, a crushing, brute force that threatens to overwhelm you. He gets you in a body lock, his arms like iron bands around your ribs, and simply lifts you from the earth. With a roar, he slams you to the ground. The impact drives the air from your lungs in a painful gasp. The sun seems to dim for a moment. A fall. The Theban stands over you, raising a fist to the cheering crowd. He is one throw closer to the wreath. A knot of despair tightens in your gut. Phaedros is shouting from the side, but his voice is lost in the noise. You force yourself to your feet, your back screaming in protest, and take your place again. The second round begins. You know you cannot survive another display of pure power. You must be smarter. You stay low, moving constantly, forcing him to turn, to chase you. He grows impatient, his movements becoming sloppy. He lunges again, reaching for your head. This time you are ready. As he comes forward, you drop your centre of gravity, duck under his grasping arm and pivot. You use his own massive momentum against him, executing a hip throw that Phaedros drilled into you 1,000 times. The Theban's feet leave the ground. He crashes onto his back, with a look of pure shock on his face, sending up a cloud of dust. The crowd roars, a sound of surprise and delight. 1 fall each. The third and final round is a war of attrition. The scorching sun and the accumulated exhaustion of the day have taken their toll on both of you. Your movements are slower, your lungs burning. The sweat and oil on your bodies mix with the dust, turning your skin to a slick, gritty mud. You are locked together for what feels like an eternity, a grueling stalemate of heaving chests and straining muscles. You see an opening, a moment of weakness. He overcommits, reaching for your neck one last time. It is now or never. You duck under his arm, lock your hands behind his thick back, and drive forward with every last ounce of your being. It is a desperate, twisting heave. For a heartbeat, you are both suspended in a state of perfect imbalance. Then, with a great sigh of collapsing muscle, he goes down. He hits the ground and you fall with him, too exhausted to remain standing. There is a moment of absolute silence. You lie in the dust, the weight of the Theban beneath you, your ears ringing. Then you feel a hand on your shoulder. The judge. He raises your arm. The fall is yours. The match is yours. The pentathlon is yours. The roar of the crowd, the sound of your own immortality, washes over you. But you barely hear it. The world is a blur of dust and exhaustion. The first person to reach you is Phaedros. He hauls you roughly to your feet. For a moment you see his familiar stern face, and you expect a critique. But the iron mask is gone. For the first time in 4 years, the trainer's calculating gaze is replaced by something else, something fierce and bright. It is pride. He says nothing, but he clasps your shoulder with a grip that is not a correction, but a profound acknowledgement. In that grip, you feel the entirety of your shared journey. The pain, the sacrifice, the relentless ponos. Then another figure pushes through the officials. Your father. He's not a man for displays of emotion, but his face is transformed. The grim lines of worry have vanished, and his eyes are shining with unshed tears. He puts his rough farmer's hands on both your shoulders, his grip trembling slightly. He simply says your name, his voice thick and choked with a pride so immense it leaves no room for other words. You stand between them, held up by the two men who forged your life, the roar of the stadium a distant echo. You are not a legend yet. You are not a hero. You are just a son and a student who has given everything he had, and for the first time in your life, you understand that it was enough. The next morning, day 4 of the festival, you wake to a new reality. The deep, aching exhaustion of the pentathlon is still settled in your bones, but it is overshadowed by the surreal lightness of victory. As you walk through the sacred grove, you are no longer an anonymous hopeful. People stop and stare. You hear your name, the son of Ariston, whispered with reverence by strangers. Your father walks beside you, his back straighter than you have ever seen it, a look of fierce, quiet pride in his eyes that is more rewarding than any cheer. Phaedros is on your other side, his usual iron severity softened by a deep, quiet satisfaction. The three of you, bound by your shared triumph, make your way to the stadium to watch the final day of competition. The atmosphere is completely different from the day of your own contest. The air is thicker, charged with a raw, bloodthirsty energy. The crowd is louder, more volatile. Today is the day of the heavy events, the day of brutal, one-on-one combat. First is the boxing, the picks. You watch as two men, giants with massive shoulders and chests, step into the designated area. Their faces are landscapes of past battles, thickened scar tissue over their brows, flattened noses, and the swollen, deformed cartilage of their ears, telling the story of 1,000 blows. They are made of different clay, your father murmurs, awed by their sheer presence. Phaedros simply grunts. Strong but slow. Look at his footwork. Even now he is analysing, teaching. The fight begins. It is a slow, methodical, and terrible art. The sound is like nothing you have ever heard. The wet, percussive thud of leather on flesh. The sickening crack of a blow landing on a cheekbone. The fighters circle under the relentless sun, slowly breaking each other down. As a pentathlete, you are trained for balance, for the harmonious application of speed, strength, and skill. These men are different. They have been forged for the singular purpose of giving and receiving punishment. Their bodies are anvils, their fists are hammers. You look at them with a profound, almost fearful respect. Theirs is a different kind of ponos, a different path to glory. After the boxing concludes, the crowd's excitement reaches a fever pitch. It is time for the main event, the most brutal of all contests, the pancration. A terrifying combination of wrestling and boxing, where only biting and eye gouging are forbidden. The two finalists who enter the stadium look less like athletes and more like mythological figures. They are the most dangerous men in Greece. The fight begins with a flurry of kicks and punches, but it soon goes to the ground, and it is there that the true horror of the sport is revealed. It is a desperate, writhing struggle of chokeholds, joint locks, and pure, savage strength. You watch as one man traps the other's arm, twisting it at an unnatural angle until the bone is on the verge of snapping, forcing his opponent to tap the ground in submission. It is a display of such controlled violence that it leaves you breathless. You watch the victors of these events, their bodies battered and bleeding, but their arms raised in triumph. You see the losers, their faces masks of agony and broken pride, carried from the field by their friends. You are a champion, but you are humbled. The skill you displayed was one of beautiful, measured execution, but the skill of these men is one of pure, terrifying survival. As you walk away from the stadium that evening, the images of the day's combat are burned into your mind. You are a hero of Olympia, but you have just been reminded that there are other kinds of heroes, other kinds of gods walking this sacred ground. You clutch the memory of your own victory a little tighter, grateful for a path that tested your spirit and skill, but left your body, and perhaps your soul, intact in a way that these gods of combat will never know. On the morning of the fifth and final day, a quiet stillness settles over Olympia. The great athletic contests are over, the roars of the crowd have faded, and a few hours of calm remain before the victors are crowned. It is in this quiet moment that you walk with your father and Phaedros through the sacred grove, and your final, most profound lessons about the games begin. As you take a path that leads past the entrance to the stadium, Phaedros stops you. He gestures to a long row of identical bronze statues of Zeus, standing stern and imposing on their stone pedestals. "Look," he says, his voice low. "Before you receive your wreath, you must understand this. You have seen these statues before, but have never truly paid them mind. These are the Zanes. They are not offerings of piety. They are monuments to disgrace." He explains that every one of these statues was paid for by the massive fines levied against athletes who were caught cheating, taking a bribe to lose, trying to bribe an opponent, or breaking their sacred oath in some other way. You step closer to one of them. The bronze Zeus glares down at you, a thunderbolt in his hand. At the base of the statue, an inscription is carved into the stone for all to read, for all time. Your father reads the words aloud, his voice grim. They name the athlete, his city, and his crime, accepting money to throw a wrestling match. The inscription ends with a stark warning that an Olympic victory is to be won by the prowess of one's body, not by the corruption of wealth. You feel a cold chill despite the morning sun. The shame of this man has been immortalised, cast in bronze to serve as a warning for 1,000 years. This is the eternal fate of the cheater. As you continue on your way, you become aware of another, quieter kind of shame. The sanctuary is filled with laughing, celebrating groups, the families and friends of the victors. But you start to notice who is missing. The faces of the men you competed against, the men you defeated, are nowhere to be seen. They are the ghosts at this final feast. Then, near the edge of the sprawling tent city, you see him. It is the confident champion from Corinth, the man who threw the javelin so beautifully. He is not celebrating. He is alone, hastily packing his belongings, his movements furtive and jerky. His magnificent physique, so proud and powerful just 2 days ago, now seems slumped in on itself. He sees you, and his eyes flicker with a look of pure misery before he turns away, hiding his face. The gulf between you and him is now absolute. He is no longer your rival. He is an object of pity, a man whose spirit has been broken. Phaedros sees you watching. "For him there will be no hero's welcome," he says, his voice flat and devoid of sympathy. "There will be no poet to sing his name. He will take the longest road home and enter his city in silence, hoping no one sees him. That is the fate of the defeated." You finally understand. You have not just won a wreath of olive leaves. You have escaped the 2 terrible fates that await every man who comes here. To lose is to be forgotten, to be erased by a wall of silence. To cheat is to be remembered forever for your dishonour. Victory is the only path that offers escape. Standing there between the bronze monuments to the cheaters and the living ghosts of the defeated, you at last comprehend the true and total meaning of your triumph. You are now ready to receive your crown. Your sober walk through the grove, past the monuments to disgrace and the ghosts of the defeated, is interrupted by a herald's call. The hour has come. You and the other victors are summoned to assemble before the great temple of Zeus. The final moment is at hand. You join the procession, a small exclusive group of the most powerful men in Greece. You walk beside the champion of the stadium race, the victor of the boxing match, whose face is a swollen mask of triumph, and the fearsome Pancratiast who now seems almost serene. The rivalry is gone, replaced by the quiet, profound respect of shared glory. As you walk, the massive crowds cheer, no longer as partisans for their own cities, but in adoration of you all. They throw flowers and colourful ribbons at your feet in a shower of celebration. You come to a stop before the massive bronze doors of the Temple of Zeus. The building is so colossal it seems to hold up the sky. Here, in the direct shadow of the god, the 10 Hellanodikai await, their purple robes brilliant in the sun. Beside them, on a table of ivory and gold, are the prizes. Not gold, not silver, but simple green wreaths, freshly cut with a golden sickle from the branches of Calistephanos, the sacred wild olive tree that grows behind the temple. A herald's voice, amplified by a bronze horn, booms across the sanctuary, silencing the thousands of spectators. One by one, he announces the champions. He starts with the winner of the ancient Stadion race, the premier event. Then he moves through the other contests. Finally, he calls the victor of the pentathlon. He cries out your name, your father's name, and your city, the three pillars of your identity for all of Greece to hear. The roar from the crowd is a physical wave of sound, confirming the truth. The name your father gave you is now a name that will be remembered forever. You step forward. One of the judges, a man whose stern gaze terrified you in Elis, now smiles warmly. He picks up one of the simple wreaths and places it gently upon your head. It is almost weightless, just a circle of twigs and leaves. And yet it feels heavier than any stone you have ever lifted. It is the weight of history, of honour, of immortality. You are given a palm branch to hold in your hand, another ancient symbol of victory. As you turn back to the crowd, they erupt, showering you with so many flowers and ribbons that you are momentarily blinded by the colourful storm. You find your father and Phaedros in the crowd. Your father is openly weeping now, his pride absolute. He clasps you in a rough embrace, the first you can ever remember. Phaedros stands beside him, and for the first time, you see him smile, a genuine broad grin that transforms his scarred face. The work, he says, his voice thick with emotion, is done. That evening, the Hellene officials host a grand banquet for all the victors in the Prytaneon, the sacred administrative heart of Olympia, where the eternal flame burns, a feast of the highest honour. But later, at a smaller private celebration with your father and Phaedros, the true prize is revealed. As you sit there, the simple olive wreath resting on the table before you, the poet begins to pluck a tune. And then he begins to sing. It is a new song, an epinikion, a victory ode. It is your song. It tells the story of a boy from a dusty Demos, of his years of toil, of his journey, and of his glorious hard-won victory in the sacred stadium. You listen, mesmerised as your sweat and pain are transformed into verse, your struggle turned into a legend. You have achieved kleos, the undying glory that all Greeks dream of. The wreath on the table is the symbol, but this song is the proof. You are no longer just a man, you are now a story, a hero, a victor of Olympia. The journey home from Olympia is nothing like the arduous pilgrimage that brought you there. You are no longer an anonymous boy walking into the unknown. You are a victor. In every town you pass through, the news of your triumph has preceded you. You are greeted with cheers, offered the best food and wine, and treated not as a traveller, but as a returning king. Your father, once a man of few words, is now a masterful storyteller, recounting your victory to anyone who will listen. Phaedros allows himself a quiet, constant satisfaction, the architect of a masterpiece, observing his work. As you approach the great walls of Athens, you see that the fields outside are empty. Then you hear it, a low hum that grows into the roar of a massive crowd. The entire city has poured out to greet you. The formal procession meets you on the road, led by the city's magistrates and priests. But they do not lead you toward the main gate. Instead, they guide you to a section of the city wall where stones have been pulled down, creating a freshly made breach. Phaedros leans in, his voice filled with an uncharacteristic awe. "This is the highest honour," he says. "They do not let you enter through a gate meant for common men. You enter through the wall itself. The city is telling its enemies that with sons like you to defend it, it has no need for stone fortifications. You are placed in a magnificent 4-horse chariot, the olive wreath from Olympia on your head. The chariot rolls slowly through the breach and into the city, where the streets are so packed with cheering people that it feels as though you are moving through a living sea. They shower you with flowers and ribbons, their faces alight with the joy that is both for you and for the glory you have brought to them. In the crowd you spot familiar faces, men from your own demos who made the journey from your village. Their shouts are the loudest of all, their pride the most personal, For you are not just Athens' champion, you are theirs. They see in you the strength and honour of Athens itself. You are no longer just Ariston's son, you are a son of the city. The parade ends at the heart of Athens, in the Agora, where a formal ceremony is held. A magistrate speaking for all the people of Athens proclaims the honours the city bestows upon you. First, a cash prize of 500 drachmae. Then, the privilege of front row seats at the theatre for life. And finally, the greatest honour of all, Tsis, the right to take your meals for free, every day for the rest of your life in the Prytaneon, alongside the most important officials and heroes of the state. Your father then steps forward, his voice thick with pride. He announces that the prize money will be used for its true purpose, to commission a master sculptor to create a bronze statue of you to be placed in the gymnasium. And you understand, this is how a fleeting victory is transformed into kleos, undying glory. The statue will be the physical embodiment of your achievement, a permanent public monument. You can already see it in your mind. For centuries to come, young boys will train in its shadow. They will hear your name, and they will be inspired to pursue their own glory. In this way, your victory, and your family's name, will never die. You stand there, the hero of the hour, the olive wreath on your head and the adoration of an entire city washing over you. You look at your proud father, at your satisfied master Phaedros, and at the cheering faces in the crowd. The long, painful journey that began in a distant village has ended here on the pinnacle of the world. Your name is set in stone, your story is set to music, and your likeness will be cast in everlasting bronze. You have achieved everything a mortal man could ever dream of. You have become a legend. Your journey as an athlete is now complete. Your legend is secure. But your story was just one thread in a vast, complex tapestry that, for nearly 1,200 years, was the single most important recurring event in the entire Hellenic world. The victory wreath did not mark the end of an athlete's story. It was the beginning of a new life of immense privilege and expectation. For some, their new role was simply to be a living monument, spending their days in the city's gymnasium or public halls, their presence a constant source of civic pride. But for many, their heroic status was a key that unlocked the doors to power. The legendary wrestler Milo of Croton, for example, was said to have led his city's army into battle dressed as Heracles. Other victors became respected politicians and diplomats, their fame giving their words a divine weight. A natural path was to become a master trainer, a gymnastes like Phaedros, passing on their knowledge to the next generation. Perhaps the greatest ambition was to found an athletic dynasty. The boxer Diagoras of Rhodes achieved this, living to see his own sons crowned as victors, solidifying the family's heroic status for generations. In the most extreme cases, the greatest champions, like the fearsome Theagenes of Thasos, were even worshipped as demigods after their deaths, their statues believed to hold healing powers. Victory at Olympia was not a career, it was a transfiguration. It could turn a farmer's son into a general, a politician, or even a god. To understand the source of this incredible honour, we must look to the origins of the festival itself. The Greeks, searching for a beginning worthy of the game's glory, told two great myths. The first is a story of brutal ambition. The hero Pelops and his treacherous chariot raced to win a kingdom. The funeral games he held were said to be the first Olympics. The second myth is one of divine strength. The hero Heracles, who founded the games to give thanks to his father, Zeus, after completing one of his great labours. From these epic myths, history emerges at a specific date, 776 BC. This is the year the Greeks recognised as the first official Olympic Games. The festival then was almost unrecognisable. There was only one event, a simple foot race, the stadion. The first man to have his name recorded as a victor was not a great warrior, but a humble cook from the nearby city of Elis named Koroibos. From this simple beginning, the games would grow over the centuries into the most magnificent spectacle in the ancient world. At its peak, the festival was the largest gathering of people in Greece. For those 5 days, a temporary city of over 40,000 souls sprang up in the quiet valley. Olympia became the unofficial capital of the Greek world. Politicians and diplomats from rival city-states used the sacred ground to negotiate treaties. The historian Herodotus is said to have recited his histories to the crowds here. But above all the politics, the commerce, and the art, the festival remained a profoundly religious event. The true centre of Olympia was not the stadium, it was the great altar of Zeus. It was not a grand temple of stone, but a massive conical mound, nearly 20 feet high, made from the compacted ash and burnt offerings of centuries of sacrifices. It was here on the third day of the Games that the great hecatomb took place, the sacrifice of 100 oxen. This was the sacred climax of the festival, a powerful and bloody tribute to the god in whose honour every race was run and every wreath was won. As we have seen, the world of the Olympic athlete was an exclusively male one. But what of the other half of the Greek world? The story of women in relation to the Games is a complex and fascinating one, a story not of participation, but of strict prohibition, daring defiance, and a separate parallel tradition. For most women, the law was absolute and terrifying. Any married woman caught attending, or even crossing the river Alpheus during the period of the men's games, was to be thrown to her death from the cliffs of Mount Typeum. The reasons for this draconian rule are lost to history, though scholars speculate it was due to the games' ancient connection to male fertility rites, or simply because the athletes competed without clothing. But one story survives of a woman who dared to defy this law, not for spectacle, but for love. Her name was Callipateira. She was the daughter of the legendary boxer Diagoras of Rhodes, and her brothers and son were all champion athletes. After her husband died, she trained her son for the games herself. On the day of his competition, she disguised herself as a male trainer and smuggled herself into the stadium. When her son won his match, Callipateira, overcome with ecstatic pride, leaped over the trainer's enclosure. In the process, her robes came loose and her identity was revealed. The Hellanodikai were faced with a terrible dilemma. The law demanded her execution. But to put to death the daughter, sister, and mother of Olympic champions was unthinkable. Out of respect for the immense glory her family had brought to the Games, they spared her life. However, they immediately passed a new rule to ensure such a thing could never happen again. From that day forward, all trainers, like the athletes themselves, had to enter the stadium naked. While Callipateira's story is one of defiance, the story of the Spartan princess Kiniska is one of ambition. As we've learned, she found the one loophole available to women. By owning and funding a winning chariot team, she became the first female Olympic victor in history. Her name entered into the official records, and her glory immortalised with a statue at Olympia, a sanctuary she was forbidden from ever setting foot in herself. These women were the rare exceptions. For most, the only outlet for athletic ambition was their own separate festival, the Heraean Games, held at Olympia in honour of the goddess Hera. These games were for parthenoi, unmarried young women. The competitors would run with their hair unbound, wearing a short tunic called a chiton that left their right shoulder and breast bare. They competed in a single event, a foot race, about 1/6 shorter than the men's stadium. The victor did not receive the same glory as a male champion, but her prize was still a great honour, a wreath cut from a sacred olive tree, a share of a sacrificed heifer, and the right to set up a painted portrait of herself in the temple of Hera. This was the complex reality for the unseen half of the Olympic world. It was a story of exclusion and prohibition, but also one of daring defiance, clever ambition, and a proud tradition all their own, a testament to the enduring human need for a chance at glory. The legend of the boy from Attica, and thousands of others like him, formed the bedrock of a tradition that lasted for an almost unimaginable length of time. Nearly 1,200 years. The games continued even as Greece was conquered by Rome, with Roman emperors themselves sometimes competing. But the world was changing. A new religion, Christianity, was sweeping across the empire, and the ancient festivals, with their sacrifices to Zeus and their pagan gods, were seen as a relic of a dying world. The end, when it came, was delivered by a simple decree. In 393 AD, the Christian Roman Emperor Theodosius I abolished the Olympic Games, extinguishing a sacred flame that had burned for more than a millennium. After the final games were held, the sanctuary of Olympia began a long descent into ruin. Its treasures were plundered, its temples burned. In the 6th century AD, two massive earthquakes shattered the colossal stone columns and toppled the statues of the gods. Then, the nearby rivers, the Alpheos and the Cladios, changed their course and flooded the valley, burying the entire sanctuary under more than 20 feet of sand and silt. Olympia, the sacred heart of the Greek world, vanished from the face of the earth. For 1,000 years it was a lost world, its location a mystery, its glory preserved only in the fragile pages of ancient texts. The rediscovery began in the 18th century, but the great work started in 1875, when a team of German archaeologists began a systematic excavation. Slowly, miraculously, the lost world emerged from the earth. They uncovered the foundations of the great temple of Zeus, the stone starting line of the original stadium, the wrestling school, and the very pedestals of the Zanes that had once struck fear into the hearts of athletes. The world our hero walked through was real. Today you can walk through it as well. The archaeological site of Olympia is a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure. You can stand in the ruins of the gymnasium, pass through the same stone archway the athletes used to enter the stadium, and see the foundations of the Bouleuteria, where the sacred oath was sworn. At the quieter, nearby site of ancient Elis, you can still see the remains of the theatre and the training grounds where our athlete endured his final, grueling month of preparation. The past is not entirely gone, it is simply sleeping. This rediscovery of the physical remains of Olympia, combined with the timeless ideals of excellence and honour preserved in Greek texts, captured the imagination of a French educator and historian, Baron Pierre de Coubertin. He believed that the modern world could be enriched by reviving the spirit of the ancient games, the pursuit of perfection, the honourable competition, and the gathering of the world's youth in peace. His tireless efforts culminated in 1896 in the city of Athens, with the birth of the first modern Olympic Games. And so, the torch was passed. The ancient quest for a simple wreath of olive leaves, the story of Ponos and the pursuit of arete that we have followed, was reborn. The world has changed in countless ways, but the fundamental human drive to push our bodies to their limits, to compete with honour, and to achieve a small piece of immortal glory remains. The sacred flame that was extinguished so long ago was eventually relit, and it burns to this day. And with that, our travels in the ancient world are at an end. Thank you for walking this long road with me. My hope is that the story of this young champion's struggle and triumph stays with you until we meet again in the shadows of the past. I wish you a calm and peaceful night.